Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. It has been a minute since we have done a solo episode, so I am so excited to come on and talk to you guys today. Today, I wanted to come on because I was reading a article the other day. I was going through like my everyday news cycle. I go through a bunch of different websites, articles, all of these different things to keep up on what's going on. But then I also read a bunch of things that are just business related and cattle business related and yada, 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 all of those things. And I came across an article and I was like, really made me start thinking about myself as a business owner, but then also how that applies to us as cattle producers. And it made me wrestle a lot with the question of what records do I actually need to be keeping in my business, but then also what records do we need to be keeping on our cattle, specifically within our business? Because there's a ton of records you need to keep, right? Like you need to keep your LLC documents and your operating agreement and your tax returns and all of those things, right? Well, I'm not here to talk about all of those things to you today because honestly, there's probably some documents that I'm missing myself that I don't even all have all of that together. But when it comes to cattle records, I think I kind of have this down. And at least what works for our operation, what works for other people in their operations. I'm going to kind of talk about all of those things today. But I think this all goes back to the fact that there are some years that the end of year comes around and I look back and I wish that I would have taken more notes or just had better organization within my notes. Whatever that looks like, right? And I know that I'm not the only one there. So today I want to break down record keeping in a way that is practical, not overwhelming, and not about buying any fancy software or anything like that. Just the core things that you should be keeping track of and why it matters and makes your cattle business stronger at the end of the day. So here is the reality of the situation. Without records, you are actually just running blind. You might feel like you know your herd well enough, but memory fades, details get fuzzy, and pretty soon you're guessing instead of managing. I think back now on things that happened in January, and I know the gist of what happened, but I could not tell you the details of it. I know that 4123 was a B when it came to tagging her calf because she chased me around the lot. Like, I remember that because it was a significant event. Now, I don't remember that 4173, I don't know what she did. I couldn't even tell you if she had a bull calf or a heifer, honestly. So going back to the details, you remember the big picture, but you don't always remember the details. The point of this isn't just that we are collecting data for the sake of it. The point is that those numbers help us make decisions. That is where record keeping actually becomes powerful, is when we use it as a decision-making tool. I mean, think about it. If you look back and see which cows bred back fast, which ones had calves that weaned really heavy, which pastures carried cattle really well, like all of those things, that is how you improve your business. That is how you find weak spots and how you start doubling down on what actually works. And it's not just about internal decisions. There are people down the line in your business that want certain information too. Buyers might want more information on cattle and exactly what you're doing when you're doing it. You also have people at places like the bank or other situations like that in your business that you're going to run into that they want detailed records on certain aspects of your business, whether it be calving records or herd management processes, or let's say you're applying for a grant with USDA or something like that. They're going to want to see things like that to see how you're running your cattle and see if you actually qualify for the grant and different things like that. So let's get into the what of your record keeping. These are the 5 big buckets in my thoughts and opinions that actually matter. Number 1, and this is obvious, but cattle ID and inventory. We're talking births, deaths, sales, purchases, transfers, all of those things, keeping extremely detailed record of it. And I'm going to touch on this a little bit later, but record that makes sense to you and makes sense to people that are reading it. Like something that makes sense and that you can track. I highly encourage a really detailed Excel document at the very bare minimum. Try and get it out of a notebook. Try and put it in an Excel doc or a Google Sheets or whatever, just something that works for you. Number 2, breeding and calving info. We're talking breeding dates, calving season, bull exposure, who was where, all of these things. This is obvious again, it's going to help you with your calving windows, what you can expect, what went well, what you can improve, all of those things. Then performance data. Performance data gets into the weeds a little bit, but here we're talking, and I don't necessarily mean EPDs. I'm going to get into that into a second, but weaning weights, average daily gains, pregnancy rates, things like this. On these, I don't necessarily know if it's 100% necessary that you have it on every single animal all the time, but as long as you are able to have a big picture idea of how these things are going, that's going to be extremely helpful for you in your business. Number 4, health and treatments. Here we're talking vaccinations, deworming, doctoring, withdrawal times. Keeping track of all of those today keeps you from guessing tomorrow. Obviously, if you do a summer process, like a spring processing day, everyone got vaccinated on this day, but then someone bums their foot and catches it on wire and they need some Draxxin or something like that. Having somewhere where you can put that's not just in the notebook that is in your pickup. Having somewhere where you're keeping track of that, seeing how often things like this are happening and being able to go back and actually track when you're doctoring, when you're doing things, and see how all of that is playing out in your business. And then finally, number 5, pasture and forage notes. Specific dates on when cattle went in, when they got taken out, your stocking rates for that year, if you were doing rotations, all of those things matter, because the thing with grass management is we want to manage our pastures so that they are great 15 years down the road. And I know I am speaking to the choir here on this, but it is really important that you start tracking those things, because if you're tracking them now, then you're able to see when you go send cattle out to that pasture next year, what do we need to do? What went well? What can we improve? Like, okay, so this year, and also like when you're doing that, actually putting in like, okay, this year we had a higher stocking rate because we had a bunch more rain this year and we had a ton of grass, or we had a ton of snow over the winter, so grass came in really well. Making sure that you document all of those things so that when you're going in next year, you have a better idea of how you can improve. All of this goes back to taking time for reflection and being able to improve on it, because that's what detailed notes actually make you able to do. And I do want to mention that if you run a purebred operation, you will naturally need more details on individual animals. You're talking registration, EPDs, pedigree info, all of those things. You naturally have more access to those, but you also need them more. If you're running a commercial herd, even just group level data will make a big difference to your operation, even if you don't have it on specific animals, specific times, all of those things. Now I want to talk about the fact of like keeping it simple. Where are we keeping these things? All of that jazz. The mistake that a lot of us make is thinking that we need high-tech systems right away. And here's the reality, you don't. 60% of producers still use a pocket notebook or a calendar on the wall, and honestly, that works. Is that the best possible system out there? I'm not going to say that. But the best record-keeping system is the one that you will actually use. I'm going to say that again. The best record-keeping system is one that you will actually use. If that is a phone, great. If it's a spreadsheet, awesome. If it is a binder in the feed truck, whatever. As long as you are keeping track and you have somewhere where all of this is written down, that is what is most important at the end of the day. A couple of tips to keep it doable and keep it something that you are able to keep up on. Write it down the same day. If you wait, you will forget. Write it down. Next, keep it consistent. Use the same place every time. Do not scatter notes between 5 or 6 different spots. This is where I'm talking like the notebook in the feed truck is great, but it's only great if you take that notebook in the feed truck and you go translate it to the notebook that's in the office. If you're keeping things in 5 different places, then you go to do something or run a report and you can't find what you're looking for, or you inevitably spilled coffee on the notebook in the feed truck, which I know I have done multiple times. So make sure that you're keeping things in one central place. Number 3, schedule a time to review your records. Whatever works for you, whether it be like, okay, calving season is over, we just got done weaning, we just got done processing, end of year. Find those natural checkpoints for you where you can go in and you can review your records and update everything. And then number 4, if you have help on the operation, make sure that everyone is on the same page and you're not missing half of the story. It's also extremely important here that the people that are on your operation understand your software as well. One of the first things that my dad did when I first started to really be able to understand the computer and records and all of those things was explain to me his record keeping system so that I understood being able to track where cattle were, where cattle are at, what they're doing, what all of the different colors in the Excel spreadsheet mean. Like, I know that black means they died. Like, if that number is highlighted black, that means that they died that year, or things like that. That way I'm able to actually understand. The people that are working with you need to be able to understand your record keeping process. Remember, the goal of this isn't data overload. It is recording what you need to make decisions to better your operation. At the end of the day, guys, records are what turn experience into evidence. Without them, we are just relying on gut feeling and memory, but with them, we have proof of what is working, and that proof helps us manage better, market our cattle better, and build confidence in the way that we are running our cattle. So if you've been putting it off, maybe this is the week to do a simple start. Write down your calving dates, record your treatments, start tracking your weaning weights this fall, which I mean, we're all probably doing anyway, but take one step in the right direction with your record keeping. I know every single one of you listening to this can reflect for 5 minutes on this and say, how can I be 1% better in my record keeping processes? Whether that be teaching your spouse your record keeping processes today, or whether that be you are taking that notebook that is in the feed truck and you're going to go sit down in the home office and transfer everything over. You just need a starting point, because the truth is, good records don't just make for good paperwork. They make for better cattlemen at the end of the day. Thank you all so much for listening to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you all tomorrow on another episode. Have a good one, y'all.